From Screen to Shelf. Physical media and entertainment from the silver screen to the palm of your hand.
What is going on, everybody? Welcome to another episode of From Screen to Shelf. My name is Will. I am joined by my esteemed colleagues, Gabe and Chase. October's over. Halloween season is behind us. It is now November. I know. It's okay. It'll be back before we know it. Only 360-something days away, right? November's here, and with that, the holidays are just within reach, everybody. Holidays are within reach, as well as the new year, 2024. And with that, major changes coming to the physical media landscape on the horizon in 2024. Best Buy announcing that they will be exiting the game of physical media. What do we think about it? Are we worried? Do we even care? We're going to talk about that and a whole lot more here on From Screen to Shelf right now. Gabe, take it away, brother.
Best Buy. So like Will said, Best Buy just recently announced that they are going to be getting rid of physical media. So predominantly DVD, Blu-ray, 4K Blu-rays from their brick and mortar stores. I think that starts first thing 2024, right, guys? From what the
earliest,
said?
Q1 2024. They never came out and confirmed that part.
I believe
though.
As soon as quarter one.
Yeah.
So maybe there's some flexibility there, but we don't know beyond that.
Yeah, so should we be worried? I mean, I know we're all going to kind of give our thoughts on this, and we've talked about it briefly before. Best Buy's always been a very big player in the game. I mean, at least in terms of like physical media, steelbooks. I know that they have a lot of like exclusive releases that come out. And a lot of people just they order from Best Buy. They're like going in and actually getting that experience. But in terms of being worried, I don't think it's that doom and gloom that a lot of people are taking it as. A lot of what's been going on the past few years or over the last decade in terms of like transitioning with sales, a lot of this is just we're getting used to and acclimated to ordering things online. Everything is being ordered online, and that's just kind of the way things are right now. So when someone like Best Buy is saying, hey, you know what, we're not going to carry these items in the store anymore, the first thing I think about is just kind of like, okay, I may not be able to get the slipcovers I want, you know what I mean? And maybe I can't like inspect the steelbooks for damage when I'm purchasing them. But outside of that, I'm not really losing anything else in terms of the purchasing experience, because everything else, a lot of the other releases, like standard releases I just purchase them online. And I've been used to purchasing these things online for the past few years now. And then Best Buy really was the only one I would actually go into the store to, like I said, like look at the slipcovers, look at the steel books. And I wasn't doing that with Target. I wasn't doing that with, Walmart for sure. I wasn't doing it with any other retailer. I even have some local retailers here where I live, and they even let you purchase stuff online, and they'll ship it to you. So you don't even have to walk into their store, and these are like physical media stores that sell vinyl, movies, Blu-rays. You can walk in the store and buy them, but I'm even used to ordering online there too. So it's not that doom and gloom, at least for me. I think that the dynamic in terms of purchasing physical media has already shifted for me. I think it shifted several years ago. But this may be a personal thing. I'm not sure. I mean, Chase, like, what do you think about it? Like, when you hear Best Buy isn't, carrying physical media anymore, is that a big concern to you?
Kinda, yes and no. Not like in the global scale of like purchasing power. Like, after Digital Bits on October 12th broke the news, and then they came out on the 13th and then confirmed it. He did a follow-up article, and I can't find exact sources, but I will trust what Bill Hunt says. They only accounted for 4% of physical media sales. So in the grand scheme of things, whenever you're counting pennies and stuff like that, like 4% is still a decent chunk of change. but it's not game changing, if that makes sense. Whenever you have Walmart that accounts for anywhere between 46 to 48%, right? Now, whenever you're comparing that to Walmart, that's literally nothing, right? Somebody else is going to come in, pick that up, especially when it comes to the exclusive steelbooks. That was probably a huge loss for them on certain aspects because they have to acquire that exclusivity. Some people are probably coming to them and saying, hey, we want to do this, and this, but they have to buy so much in bulk. And, of course, with not trying to lambast anything, but with the way they ship things, the returns, the defect rate and stuff like that, it probably accounted for a good chunk of loss, right? So on a personal note, yes, it sucks because I have the fortunate ability to be 4 or 5 minutes away from a Best Buy. And so like whenever 10 o'clock comes on a Tuesday, I'm like right there at 10:01 getting, I think the last one I got was like the Wicker Man and then a couple of other movies. I think it was The Blob or Pumpkinhead that came out that same day because, I had nothing to do that day. So I wanted to come home, watch a couple of movies, stuff like that during spooky month and then get that rocking and rolling. So I'll definitely miss that, just in a personal aspect, just because, I also had the pleasure of having a Blockbuster near me that didn't shut down until that final wave of shutdowns. So I didn't lose that for a while. I had Blockbusters around me for a good while. So Best Buy became that bridge for me, every Tuesday going in, seeing what would, be rocking and rolling. So yeah, pretty much like you said, going in there, finding the ideal one, stuff like that. And then I got to know people. So if I put in like an online order, they were like, yeah, I know how this guy's going to be if we don't get him the right one. You know what I mean? So, that sense of relationship and stuff like that, I'll definitely miss it. And I know other people haven't had like the best pleasure of having that experience, but I've had nothing but pleasant experiences with the Best Buys that I go into.
Yeah, for sure.
So I'll miss that for sure. But, also the one that I've had is still really well stocked. The thing that I will like to say is like, to our point of Q1, that feels like even though they necessarily did not come out, at least with the report I'm looking at, that Best Buy came out and quoted after Bill Hunt broke this, I'm not seeing any confirmed official end. It does look like that will be coming sooner rather than later, because I always did have the pleasure of being like, I'm not going to order online. I'll just go in that Tuesday and get it. I've missed out on Blue Beetle, which is now officially out of stock, and that was probably my most anticipated steelbook. Exorcist, Prey, which fortunately has been coming in and out back online. It hasn't been delisted. Like Blue Beetle got delisted, I think, yesterday or the day before. I've never had to deal with that full frontal. The Best Buy I have has always been great. I can check it at 8 a.m., put in my online order, 2 hours later, go and get it. So that's how it's personally going to affect me. But I'm sure we'll segue into it where it seems like Walmart is going to be picking up a little bit of that slack. So we might still have some hope in regards to same-day purchases.
We're going to talk about Walmart. And you brought up a good point, too, just in terms of, I forgot that aspect of it, like the convenience of it, where like if you wanted to get a movie like that day, I know there's been times where me and my wife are like, oh, like let's watch whatever movie, and I'm like, oh, I'll just go pick it up real quick at Best Buy on the way home.
Yeah.
You don't have to wait for it, like, in terms of shipping. So that is a convenient part of it, is just being able to go pick it up and watch it the same day. And as far as Blue Beetle, I don't know if that's just a Warner Brothers DC thing, man, because I remember like Justice League was the same way, where it was like, that came out and then like a week later or a few days later it was just gone.
It was gone.
Yeah.
And I didn't think I'd have to worry about it because Black Adam, they still have steelbooks of it over there. They still have Flash steelbooks over there.
Really?
Yeah, they still have the Flash ones over there at this one I go to. So I didn't think it'd be a problem, especially a lot of people weren't talking about Blue Beetle.
Yeah, and it wasn't like really like highly regarded from what I understand. I didn't go see it, but
yeah.
That's kind of weird. Now I'm sure like probably if you look on eBay, it's probably like what, $100 or something.
God, somebody
but
scalped all of them.
Yeah, the convenience is definitely like a big factor. Will, what about you, man? When you hear Best Buy?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with most of what you guys said. For me, it's been a love-hate relationship with Best Buy as of late. So it is bittersweet, like to piggyback on what you guys said about being able to go into the store and physically pick up a copy on release day. I mean, yeah, I'm going to miss that. I'm going to miss taking a ride out there. I have one that's probably 20 minutes away from me. And then I have another that I'd say is probably within 35, 40 minutes. So not too far. So I've had options in terms of Best Buys. I will say the one nearest to me was hit and miss with stock, and has been for the last several months anyway. Whereas the one that's a little farther, I mean, that's well worth the drive because they're always stocked. And I went there, gosh, I think 4 or 5 days ago after work, and they still had plenty to choose from. Still had Flash, Black Adam, a lot of steelbooks. So yeah, I mean, for me, it really just comes down to, I mean, am I worried? No. Someone else will fill that void. We spoke about that. I've said this in our Discord community. I've said it to you guys. I'll say it again on here. Uh, Best Buy hasn't catered to collectors for quite some time. They are simply making a financial decision as a company that is probably the right decision to make for them. Chase, you mentioned they're only 4%. They only account for 4% of physical media sales. That's a losing game to be in.
Yep.
Especially with Walmart, the elephant in the room, what'd you say, 46 to 48%? I mean, at that point, for Best Buy, and with the way they've packaged things, and I can personally attest after the countless arguments I've gotten into with store managers over damaged, shipping boxes and whatnot, and so on and so forth, especially with steelbooks, just the lack of consistency with packaging. I just didn't see them being able to continue down that road much longer. So yeah, it's bittersweet because I'm gonna miss being able to go into the store on release day and see what's there. But then again, I mean, that's kind of a callback to the glory days of physical media when everybody went to Best Buy and Walmart and Target and so on and so forth to buy movies. And we don't live in that age anymore. We're in the age of streaming where physical copies are becoming a collector's market. And so, I've been anticipating that change for quite some time, as I think we all have. So yeah, I mean, it's unfortunate that a player steps out of the game, like on a mainstream level. It's bad, but I guess I could say on more of a collector's level, it's just going to be better for collectors because, I mean, again, most collectors don't rely on Best Buy to provide them with the majority of the movies they buy. Best Buy only accounts for, it's a small percentage of the releases that I buy. Yeah, I'm curious as to who is going to pick up the mantle regarding their exclusive steelbook deals. I don't know if another company will come in and do that. I don't know if that's a Walmart thing or an Amazon. We've seen Amazon offer some exclusive releases. I think they did one for John Wick. That's the last one I can remember. They had an exclusive steelbook. I think Walmart did something similar. So
It's steelbooks is interesting though because I mean even though a lot of them would say like Best Buy exclusive packaging, those are they're still classified. A lot of them are still classified as what they call like worldwide like available
worldwide
steelbooks.
art.
Yeah, so like it's they could still be picked up through other retailers like the Lord of the Rings steelbook set, which I thought at the time when I was kind of getting into steelbooks, I'm like, oh, this is a Best Buy exclusive. I pick it up, and then like months later, I see it like in another retailer that's it's being sold. So a lot of the Best Buy exclusives, quote unquote, were they were like worldwide available art that they utilize. So I'm curious if that's just something that could easily transition to Walmart, like if they can just kind of keep that going, or if it's just going to be maybe we'll start seeing it pop up on Amazon. Who knows? I mean, they're kind of iffy with packaging too, though. They'll throw a steelbook in a bubble wrap thing and call it a day. But yeah, I don't know, man. I mean, it's with steelbooks, I'm not too worried about that in terms of like the exclusivity with Best Buy because I don't really feel like they ever had like any definitive exclusivity. I'm trying to think of any titles that would for sure like was only available through them.
I don't know if Scream Factory had like an exclusive deal with them. I think Scream Factory was the only one where they had exclusive. But I think if I'm Scream Factory, they'll probably try to find another retailer to partner with, with once this takes effect, I would assume, if they want to continue down that road.
Yeah, for sure. And it like we all said, I don't think any of us were worried when we heard that Best Buy announcement. I mean, if anything, we were maybe excited just for end of year sales.
Yeah.
I know everyone's just like counting down the days for like, a big liquidation or something in terms of like their Blu-ray shelves, but
we're such filthy capitalists.
Of course, take advantage of it. But I mean that goes into, I know we're going to transition into, I mean, Target. Did Target ever like really announce that though, or is that something that
downsizing
we've just been kind of observing?
Yeah, like so it's kind of, I actually went in preparation for this. I have like a lot of Targets near me, almost more than Walmart's. So I went in, and I kid you not, one of them only had like 3 titles on the shelf. It was wild. And I was
Oh
like,
wow.
where'd they go? Like, okay. It was the first one I went into, and I was like, whoa. So they did just stop, you know? But then I saw people on the server talking about like the Barbie prices and stuff like that, because some people were taking pictures of the sticker prices saying $49.99, I want to say. And I was like, there's no way they think that they're going to downsize and just, off them for that price, Then I go into the one that is actually the closest to me, and they were fully stocked. Now, not of titles you would necessarily buy, but I mean, they had stock. I'll say that. And I did want to point out, like, Target going and being downsized. Like, I never went in there to browse for physical media like I would back in the day. Like, piggybacking back on Best Buy just a tiny bit, when they used to have the giant media walls, like in the back corner or like in the front on the, like in the angle or on the side, they had a whole wall, and it would just be like the racks front facing, not sideways. And then you could just sift through them from DVD to even whenever the dawn of 4K for a couple of years, they were still around. I always liked that, and I would go into Walmart for that, because the Walmarts I have over here still have those walls. They're just $9.99 or like DVDs from like Shudder,
Yeah.
So Target, I only ever went into, like we were talking about before we pre-rolled, like I got a Jaws steelbook and an ET steelbook for like $7-8, I want to say. Just stumbled across them. I think 1917 steelbook, that one that's pretty plain. It's like all black.
Yeah,
You know
I
what I'm
saw that
talking
one.
about? Yeah. I got those for like a handful of dollars, and I think that was what was that, a year and a half ago? That was the last time I really walked in trying to find a deal, because I heard about it in the Discord server. I think Target is probably the least that whenever I heard that, I think I just scrolled past, okay, sounds about right. Like, because I never went in there for that. But, I do feel sad for the people where that was their reliable source to go in there.
Yeah.
Because it does suck, and they do throw the buy two, get one sales out there.
Yeah,
as
they
well.
do that pretty often. I mean, those sales are kind of iffy though, because it's like, you're purchasing the disc full price, and full price to them is, $30-35. So at that point, it's like, is that really a free disc that you're getting?
Yeah. It's good for pre-orders though, because it usually counts towards pre-orders as far as I'm aware.
I did not know that.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I mean,
that's actually how I got Texas Chainsaw, was through Target with the pre-order, because I was able to use it on the pre-order, so I actually saved a bit of money on the slipcase. With that. So
that's smart.
that
I
came in
did
handy.
not know that. I mean, Target for me, it's kind of like what you said, Chase. It was always like I'll do some shopping. I never went in there with the intent of like buying movies. I would do shopping, and then like on the way out, I'd be like, oh, let me see like what, if they have any sales for movies. And sometimes they'd have some, crazy sales on like steelbooks and just stuff that they're trying to get rid of. And that's all Target ever was to me, at least. I know recently they've been shrinking down a lot of like their movie stuff. But they've been increasing their vinyl stuff, which is interesting. Like the movie stuff is going down, but then like at my Target, there's like 2 aisles of like vinyls, and I'm like, this is crazy. I mean, and
They're lucrative.
that's awesome for people that collect vinyls, but I don't think Target ever was a big player in terms of like the physical media market. I think that they sold them there, and that was it. And like what you said, Chase, a lot of them, you'd have these racks like right outside the cash registers, like for the new releases, and that was pretty much it. Like you'd literally just buy them like on your way out, like, oh, okay,
impulse,
let me pick this up. Yeah, and that was it. But it doesn't surprise me that Target's getting rid of it. But did they ever officially announce it though, or is this just kind of our own observation?
Just downsizing, as far as I'm aware. There was nothing whenever I was researching before this that said they were like exiting it completely, like Best Buy. Just massive downsizing. I believe they're still going to do online orders at the very least and fulfill those. That's at least what I know. That Target's pretty tight-lipped about that. It wasn't like Best Buy where the next day they were like, yep, this is true. Target's been pretty tight-lipped, but I do believe they did come out and say something about it, but it was just verbatim downsizing is what I heard and read.
And Will, what about you, man, with Target? Was it ever a big thing for you?
No, I shop at Target occasionally, but I've never, in the past several months, I've never even looked at their media section. I forgot that they even carried CDs and vinyl there. When you said vinyl, that kind of like, I was like, oh, maybe I'll go and check that out. But, and that's, it's good for vinyl collectors. But yeah, I will say the last experience I have ordering physical media from Target was Texas Chainsaw. So, and, before that, I hadn't ordered for a while. Someone actually told me they do like the buy one or buy two, get one. For movies, so that's the first and probably the last time I may ever use that promotion. I wouldn't be surprised if Target exits the game at some point within the next year or year and a half, right? I just think it's only a matter of time. And I think, as I said, regarding Best Buy, they're in a business that's no longer lucrative to them. And so, yeah, I mean, Target might be willing to hold out a little longer. I don't know what their financials are in regards to their sales for physical media, but obviously, if they're downsizing their stores in most parts of the country, I would assume that they're just trying to, recoup losses or just save as much as they can. So, yeah, but for me personally, no. I mean, I was more concerned, or I guess I could say more affected by Best Buy. So, yeah, for me, Target, it's just kind of a drop in the bucket at this point.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, Best Buy, Target, and the question is that, everyone wants answered is, are we worried about, the state of physical media right now with Best Buy, Target downsizing, other retailers downsizing? Are you guys worried at all? Like, Chase, are you concerned about the state of physical media right now?
I love that question because this is where like a lot of like my research, and then remember I told you guys I heard something through the grapevine that I made us wait for this instead of capitalizing around the time it came out. So I've got some interesting stats and a verbatim quote from Best Buy right here from, I believe, it doesn't give me an exact date. It was between 1999 to 2001, where Best Buy officially declared that physical media and DVDs, DVD players, and essentially home theaters were going to be the most lucrative part of their business. It was almost 20 years ago, streaming, stuff like that. Like, look at Netflix. They just exited, was it last year, maybe just a few months ago, their actual like disc-to-door service.
Yeah, I think rental service.
I think all of us used that at one point. I think everybody at one point for, what was it, $5, $6, $7 for 4 movies a month. That was lucrative, know. It was really, really solid. It was really easy to use, but then it just wasn't feasible on the cost of acquisition versus the amount of people that were using it. So then you got to think the same way about DVDs, especially whenever the studios want to get so much of a cut and they're only making $2, $3 per disc, right?
Yeah.
So especially like going back to the packaging and the shipping and stuff like that, like typically they aren't going to be able to get a vendor's return on that item and then get their money back on the cost of acquisition. That's just how that works, on the highest level of business. If something gets damaged in transit, but they sent that out in ideally fine condition, right? That's up to the manufacturer, the distributor, whoever ended up receiving that item before or prior to shipping to market vendor return so that way they can get their margins back on that item. So let's say like the Halloween set, right? I've seen some of those come in pretty damaged, right? And the Jurassic Park set. That's retailing for anywhere from $80 to $100. So most people or most companies, Best Buy in this instance, their cost of acquisition is probably 60 to 70. They aren't making much, right? Once you consider labor, shipping costs, and everything, they're probably looking at a margin of $4 to $5. So if that gets damaged in shipping, they just essentially gave you a free item, and which is their fault, right? Whenever it comes to the shipping, right? The way they package it and everything, that does ultimately come on them. But like we said, they don't cater to collector's market. They might be viewing that steel outside of the Jurassic Park set as part of the packaging, right? And they only expect you to keep just the steel books themselves, so they aren't really thinking of it that deep. So whenever you go further into that 20 years later, whenever you have all of these streaming studios and stuff, or streaming distributors, like you have Paramount Plus, and then you have Prime, Netflix, Hulu. You have so many to choose from, right? Where they're putting out originals, they're doing this, they're doing that, and you can get Peacock for free with ads. You know, you can get Tubi and watch literally, I kid you not, 20 to 30,000 different titles right now. And Tubi
for free.
Yeah, exactly. Put up with like 30, 45 seconds of ads at most, if not just one ad every 30 minutes or so. And you can do that. And some people, it's a volumes games nowadays. Somebody on their day off might want to watch 2 or 3 movies because they have absolutely no plans. And 2 or 3 movies for collectors like us, we're going to put a hole in the wallet, right? Especially unless we're deal hunters and stuff like that. It's just a volumes game, like the cost per unit and the consumer's eye when it comes to that. And that's going to bring me to the doom and gloom approach, right? So really the only thing that like kind of makes me a little bit sad. Now we have like great online distributors like Groove. A lot of people are, I believe that has to be how it's pronounced. I can't imagine it's Grove.
I've always called it Groove. Oh wait, someone calls it Grub?
Yeah. I know. Yeah. Is it Grove, Will?
No, I think it's Groove.
Oh,
Oh,
okay,
okay.
okay. I thought
I've
you were
never
saying it
heard
was-
anybody pronounce it
was
as
it-
Grove.
Yeah, I was gonna
Oh,
shoot
yeah.
myself in the foot if it's pronounced
Grove.
Grove.
Grove Lord.
Grove Lord.
Grove Barons out there. All you
Yeah.
Grove Barons out there in our physical media community.
Grove
Yeah.
abusers.
Yeah, no, for like you have
think it's Groove.
amazing people. Like that is a lot of people don't know, but you can see it at the bottom, like in their copyright and their trademarks. That is
Mhm.
Universal's front distributor. And I
Yeah.
would love to see more people come out and do that, right?
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
That is awesome. There's only one thing that gets me kind of doom and gloomish. If Target fully exits, Best Buy's fully exiting, who does that leave? Walmart.
Mhm.
You know, they're already looking at actually getting into the manufacturing business. I wasn't able to find the exact article. I'm sure it's out there, but they are looking at acquiring a disc manufacturer, and they're probably going to tick right above that 50% margin, whether that's 4K Blu-ray, and I'm assuming it's going to be a majority of DVDs. So
Yeah.
that's kind of
Can
where
I chime in on that, Chase?
go right on ahead.
I just wanted to mention, that Walmart's looking to acquire SDS, which is Studio Distribution Services. It's the official distribution services for Warner Brothers, Universal, all the big players. I believe that was formed by Universal and Warner Brothers years back in order to kind of tackle the shrinking market. They figured they'd join forces in order to, distribute most of their content. And I believe the other studios use them as well, Paramount, so on and so forth. But yeah, Walmart, I think that was several months ago, closer to the start of the year, we heard that Walmart was looking to get into that,
Yeah.
if I remember correctly.
And like that can be great and that can be bad, right? So like, monopolies. And monopolies are hardly ever good, right? A lot of distributors like Scream Factory, Vinegar Syndrome, I believe, uses, I forget the exact name of the manufacturing plant out there in Mexico. That's where a lot of them are being made, like the actual Blu-ray discs burned, shipped out here, and then sent out to us.
Is that OCN distribution, Chase?
That's what it
think
is. OCN. That is OCN. Yep. So that's the exact one that they're using. And when it comes to only being able to walk into a Walmart for brand new big major titles, right? Now, I do want to preface this, and this is why it's not as doom and gloom to me. I am blessed. I live near a Vinegar Syndrome, an actual brick and mortar store. I have 3 third parties within the same 5-minute stretch where I can go into a third party retailer right now and it's dedicated just like Blockbuster. I can rent movies. I can do this. I can do that, right? I'm extremely blessed to have that around me, but I understand not a lot of people do. So that's why it doesn't bother me as much as it might cost me almost $5 more per title to go to these places. At least I'm supporting to try to keep that brick and mortar experience alive, and I'm willing to do that, right? Because not everybody has that blessing. So that's why I'm cautious whenever it comes to Walmart, because it's just like I was prefacing earlier, and that's kind of what I've been building up to. A lot of Walmarts have been getting those pop-up 4K Steelbook sections. 3 of mine have those currently, and they popped up just over the last couple of weeks. And that's kind of why we got a little bit of information saying that those were going to be coming out. So we wanted to wait to address that. Now that it's out there in the wild, I hope they lower those dang prices, because they're almost 33% above markup. Like The Man Who Killed Bigfoot Then Hitler, I believe, is a 4K Steelbook that is Walmart exclusive, but you can get it on Amazon for $10 less than what it's showing up in stores for. It's $29.82 at the one I was at yesterday. And it's $20.18 right now on Amazon for pre-order. It comes out later. If you want to pay that $10 tax to get it right now, cool. Support physical media, keep that brick and mortar experience alive. But whenever it comes to, again, it's a volumes game. When it comes to a lot of us, there are some people that like to collect. There are some people that like to get certain themes, certain genres, and there's people that just like to fill their shelves, right? So that's why Groove is amazing, right? The sign up 20, their 3 for $30 specials that stack with that. You can essentially bring your cost of acquisition per unit down to almost $8, right? So that's insane, especially if you don't care about slip covers. And Groove have never had a bad experience with their packaging. Just got my Alfred Hitchcock Volume 3 yesterday. It was in a bubble mailer, but they stacked it between cardboard. So the cardboard stuck out a little bit, so I didn't get any dings. Looks like I just picked it up fresh off a shelf, right? With no damage. So that's kind of the little bit of research I wanted to bring up, remind people that, this was once a lucrative business. DVD was the future. The right to own your movies was new back then, because VHSs were almost $70 brand new. That's why Blockbuster was such a big deal back in that era and that time when you could go
Mm-hmm.
in, pay $5, watch it repeatedly for, I believe it was like 3 to 4 day rent cycle. That was a huge
Yeah.
deal. That was revolutionary at the time. That's why they were popping up like Pizza Huts, Domino's, and Papa John's everywhere, because it was a
Yeah.
lucrative business. Now look
Mhm.
where they're at. We have one left in the world, right?
Mm.
So it's not a super lucrative business anymore. Streaming, even streaming itself, like let's preface that, is not a lucrative business. I would love for somebody to find me a report because I did the research. Not a single one turns profit. I believe
No, yeah,
Netflix turns a small
Netflix is
profit. Yeah,
Netflix isn't a continuous. At least a report from last year. I think it was on YouTube.
They're
I
still
saw it on
losing
John
money?
Campia's story.
They're still losing money.
Yeah, John Campia did a report. I think that they're just in a constant revolving door where pretty much they're evening out or losing money. So like they're putting,
Yeah.
they're buying all these like movies and these shows and like starting these big projects, and then they're high budget. You know what I mean? And then they just invest in all these different properties, but they don't churn a profit in terms of their subscription, so they're just kind of evening out the whole time, which is
Mhm.
at the end of the day, you do that for a few years, it's like how long can you really sustain that? So Netflix for sure definitely just kind of evens out. I
Yeah.
don't know about the other ones. I mean, it'd be interesting to see, like, because I think WB owns HBO Max, right? I think that's the
Yeah,
case.
yeah.
Yeah, that's
Correct,
Warner
yes.
Brothers Discovery. Yep.
Warner Brothers, yeah. So like I don't know how different that is when you have an actual like studio that actually owns the streaming service. But who knows? But I don't think it's as profitable as people think it is.
No, it's not. And I do want to pose this question just because that's something I've never understood. And if like I'm just hoping for a reply, unless you guys got the answer for it as well. Especially when it comes to HBO Max. I get like they're putting out a lot of originals, but whenever it comes
Yeah.
to like the cost for just the app itself and everything like in between, I believe it's $19.99 now, and even at launch it was
Yeah.
$14.99. Whenever it was
Mhm.
HBO Max before it was just Max,
Yeah.
that was pretty much the same price to add it onto your cable forever. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
like unless they're getting like
Yeah.
and HBO was never like an ad heavy. Like that was one of its biggest things. Pay for premium
Mhm.
content. You don't have to get ads. That was kind of like the very first, ad free type of experience on
Mhm.
HBO, and then the filler until the next airtime. Of course, you'd have like its own ads for its own stuff, but very rarely would you see infomercials or, like a Nickelodeon commercial on HBO, right? So it's kind of confusing to me how HBO Max definitely seems like it's the most lucrative in its own category over there, how they can't turn a profit. And I get just running the servers, everything in between, the cost to put out these Max originals. But again, if you think of it whenever it comes to Max originals, it's no different than whenever they first came out of Game of Thrones, whenever it was on cable
Yeah.
for HBO.
Yeah.
It's kind of confusing, right?
Yeah,
Because the people that
100%.
do cable still do cable, right? App streaming is catered to different people, right?
Streaming.
Well,
Yeah.
with
Streaming
the
is. Oh,
streaming,
go ahead.
right,
Well.
No, go ahead. I was just going to say it's an additional cost with the infrastructure that they're investing in for streaming, right? Because
Yeah.
it's not just like it's on cable anymore. With cable, the infrastructure was there, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just a matter of whether or not you wanted to add their channel to your list of channels, right? Or add
Yeah.
their, add premiums. Same with Showtime.
Yeah.
Whereas with streaming, like they're providing the infrastructure for that themselves. So they're investing in that as opposed to with cable where,
Makes
everything's
sense.
pretty much there. It's just a matter
Mhm.
of ordering a subscription, for a month or 3 months or a year, however long you want to have their product. So
Yeah.
I think that's
Infrastructure is a
where,
big part of it.
Yeah, because they're not just sitting
and
out a
I was going to
wave.
say that. Go ahead, Chase.
I was just saying because that makes sense because when it comes to cable, they're just sending out a wave signal to everybody's
Mhm.
receiver, their satellite,
Mhm.
until it became fiber optics for some people on cable. So I mean that makes sense because now you have all these servers that you have to build, maintain,
Yeah.
have people watch over it versus send out the signal.
Yeah.
But streaming is turning into. I mean, I think that they're kind of they're heading into a crossroads though, because it's turning into kind of like what Will said. Like they're paying for their own infrastructure, so it's a big investment. But
Mm,
the biggest thing that they had going for them was like this whole kind of cut the cable movement, where it's like this is way cheaper than your cable. But now when you have
Yeah.
7 or 8 services that you're paying for, it's like crap.
Same
Now I'm
cost.
just back to I'm back to what I was paying before. So
Yeah.
I definitely think they're heading into a crossroad, and I don't know if there's going to be this shift, kind of like what Disney Plus did, what Warner Brothers did with HBO Max, where maybe these studios might start just saying like, you know what, we need to maybe just do our own kind of services and stop kind of like giving licenses out to Netflix and Hulu and all these other services. It's just a weird place right now for streaming for sure.
I would
Well,
find that
that's
more
already
lucrative.
started to happen
Yeah,
with
Sony's doing that.
licensing. Yeah,
Yeah.
but that's already happened though, where a lot of these companies have said, "Well, yeah, we can't license this product out because we need it for our
Yeah.
streaming service."
Yeah.
So it's kind of turned into this whole proxy war over content, essentially, where everybody wants their own stuff back to be able to use it to beef up their streaming services. And Gabe, what you said, where it's like streaming is becoming like the new cable in a sense,
Mm-hmm.
where it's just been interesting to listen to the conversation, especially from like more of my casual friends and acquaintances over the years, where now, I'm hearing like, yeah, I got to pay this much for another streaming app. It's like most people just want one or two, which is what it used to be. It used to
Yeah.
just
Mm-hmm.
be Netflix and you could get everything you wanted or most of what
Mm-hmm.
you wanted, right? In terms of mainstream movies and a lot of people like to watch old movies. Now,
Yep.
one could say that's an argument for physical media. It's like, well, if you want to watch old movies, your favorite movies, just buy them, right? But
Yeah.
Netflix used to be the place for that, and
Yep.
that's not the case anymore, right?
Mhm.
Now you got to, if you want to watch this, you have to buy Hulu. Well, if you want to watch this movie, you got to buy Disney Plus or HBO Max. It's yeah, it's becoming a situation where people are going to have to choose which streaming services they want, and that's part of why they find themselves in this predicament where they're spending all this money to put out the biggest and the best content, and they're all in this race to try to do that. But so far, it's not paying off.
Yeah.
As you've talked about, I don't think any of them have made money other than Netflix, and even then, as Gabe mentioned, it's a revolving door. So yeah, it's a weird time in the industry, and especially with the strikes still happening in Hollywood and all that going
Mhm.
on. A lot of that is over some of the streaming rights and whether or not actors and crews that work on these projects, if they're ever going to see a percentage of that revenue from streaming, which is interesting because there's revenue but there's not profit right now. So
Yeah.
now
And
the studios have to deal with that, right? And where the industry wants a piece of, I should say, the crew members and the actors, they want a piece of that, right? They want a piece
Mhm.
of that pie. So that's another challenge in addition to having to also deal with 6 or 7 competitors within the space.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And it's interesting how this is all kind of like interlinked because I know we were talking about I think we are talking about that Hot Wings episode with Matt Damon, right, where he was talking
Hmm.
about why can't they make kind of like more smaller independent projects anymore
Oh
theatrically?
yeah, yeah.
And he pretty much talked
Yeah.
about, how the DVD and Blu-ray, like how that was just a massive, profit for these movie studios. And now that you've taken that away, they can't really invest all this money into these smaller projects because it's like there's not going to be a turnout in terms of like the physical media portion. So I sometimes I wonder if this is all going to kind of go around full circle where it's like, okay, streaming, like we can't make profit from it, right? Like, I mean, we're just kind of
Yeah.
like breaking even. um like, is it going to turn to this thing where it's like, okay, now physical media starts becoming a thing again because people are realizing like I'm paying for 20 different streaming services,
Mhm.
and I can't get all the content I want in like one kind of location. So I wonder, I mean, that's me being too optimistic, but it could turn into this thing
Yeah.
where, we start straying back to kind of physical media and more independent theatrical releases because like I just don't know how long the system can be sustainable for.
That's a big part of it, Gabe. But what also is a big concern, and people are starting to see this more and more, is these companies removing content just
Oh
Yep.
yeah.
randomly without reason out of the blue. There was a big thing with Sony doing that months back.
Mm-hmm.
They've done it with like, video games in the gaming industry. That's happened a few times, but they've also done it for, I guess, I don't know if it was Sony or one of the other companies. I think it
Sony
was
is for
Sony where
PlayStation.
yeah, people had purchased these movies.
Mm-hmm.
They had these movies in their libraries, in their digital libraries, so to speak,
Mm-hmm.
in the cloud or whatever you want to call it. And Sony just, one day the content it was just gone. It just wasn't
Yeah.
there.
It's not
And you
ownership.
had
Yeah.
no, it's not. I mean, and this is one thing we've said thousands of times, and we've all heard it before that physical media, when you buy physical media, you
Forever.
own it. It is a copy,
Mm-hmm.
but it is your copy. That is
Yep.
your copy. You can watch that. You can take it with you wherever you go. You can watch it whenever you want. They cannot take it away from you. And that will always be the benefit of having something physical in your hands that you can touch and call your own. So, and we're kind of seeing that with when they make moves like that, where they just take things down. And I think that happened with South Park too. And nobody could watched South Park for a while, and then now I think it's on Hulu now, but
or Max now.
That's obviously become much more of a concern in more recent years.
Yeah.
Yep. When it comes to those
100%.
licenses, it's become bidding wars. You know how much Max paid for those
I can't
distribution
imagine
rights
that.
on
Yeah.
South Park? And then, like, you know, then it gets become even to like a bigger measuring contest, because then you have Paramount Plus that owns the actual rights, you know, like
Mhm.
Viacom and stuff like that under Comedy Central. They were
Mhm.
mad that they went and distributed that deal, and they limited it, I believe it was 5 or 6 episodes instead of like the typical 10 to 13 episode seasons.
Yeah.
That's just dumb, you know, just to
Mhm.
limit somebody else. Like, yeah, it's just, that's why like streaming just gets agitating, you know, and that's why they've been
Yeah.
getting
All
these
it's
specials.
doing, all it's doing is punishing consumers at the end of the day. I
Mhm.
mean,
Yeah.
that's who suffers the most is the people that are paying for these subscription services, and they're told that, yeah, you have all these options, but you really don't have all these options. There's like an illusion out there, or was for a long time, that, oh, well, streaming, I don't need physical media. I can just watch it on streaming. Like, yeah, you can watch it on streaming until you can't, until they
Yeah.
decide that they just don't want to license it anymore, or the
Mhm.
company that was offering the license decides they want it back, which has happened, you know, countless times in the last 2.5, 3 years, you know, since all these companies started coming out with their own streaming platforms. So, yeah, it's definitely a wild time right now for streaming as well.
Yeah. And
Do
I
you feel like
think
it's doom
gonna
and
be
gloom?
interesting. What's up?
I was asking Will, do you feel like it's doom and gloom? Because I know you asked me that question, and I went on a statistical tirade.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I try to stay positive. You guys know me. Like, I wasn't worried about the Best Buy thing. I'm not worried about streaming either. I think it's just a matter of these companies figuring out a way to move forward that is successful for everybody and profitable, right? And
Mm-hmm.
I knew it's going to take, maybe it'll take longer. It might take a few more years for this to work out, right? I mean, but you know, if you want to call it a free market where all these companies are competing, you know, the ones that are successful will be the ones that are successful. I think the traditional studios realized, especially this year, and we talked about like Oppenheimer and Barbie, they need theater chains to make profit, right?
Yeah.
Because if the streaming services haven't been profitable, theatrical releases have been profitable. They're still making a lot of money from physical sales. You know, we can
Mhm.
say all we want that, you know, physical media is a collector's market now. In a lot of large parts, I guess I could say in a large part it is, but it's still very profitable. And
Yeah.
in terms of the money that they're losing from streaming, I think the sales that they make with physical media, so far it's been a decent offset to some of the money they've lost. Not all of it. It hasn't been able to replace all of it. I think combined, there was an article. I'll pull this up in a second here. I'm just loading. I think they've lost, like, Disney, Hulu, HBO Max, Warner Brothers.
Millions.
They've lost
Mhm.
like I think it's close to 20 billion in losses.
Golly.
Yeah, that's
Which
a lot
is
of money, man.
Crazy. That is crazy.
But but like what you
Think
said,
about.
well, it's you know, it is still profitable because when you have, you know, Disney releasing Mandalorian, WandaVision, Prey, which is, you know, that Hulu exclusive, like they're starting to release these things that they told us would be just, you know, predominantly exclusive to those streaming services. Now all of a sudden, a few months later, it's like, hey, you guys can buy them on physical. I think that they see a market there, and there are some numbers there that are, you know, influencing to do that. They're not doing that out of the kindness of their hearts.
Yeah.
You know, they're not doing
Yeah.
it because we asked for it. It's because they know that there's a profit there. So I think that's like, you know, I think that's one aspect to be optimistic about. It's like we're seeing a lot of these, like, you know, they're supposed to be exclusive streaming, you know, titles, and now all of a sudden they're coming out on physical media.
Yeah. And if I could piggyback off of that point, like with theatrical releases and physical releases, at least, and this may not be the case, I'm not entirely sure how it is behind the scenes, how they divide those profits, or how those profits are then reinvested or spread out amongst their resources. But if you release a movie theatrically, in the
Mhm.
case of Oppenheimer, that is revenue that you are making directly from that theatrical run, right? Whereas with streaming, it's not like you release one movie on streaming and people pay for that movie necessarily, unless it's a case in which, like, Amazon Prime, for example, rents certain movies. Like, I think an HD movie on Amazon Prime is like $3.99 or something like that. It's like
Mhm.
$4. So that's a situation where studios are making money directly from somebody renting, or in this case with physical media, purchasing that product, or in the case of theatrical movies, ticket sales. Whereas with most streaming platforms, you're paying a flat fee, and they're then taking the profits from that, or in this case, they don't have profits, but they're taking that revenue and just reinvesting it. So there's no real, it's not necessarily streamlined in a sense like a theatrical release or with a physical release where it's like, okay, we sold this many physical copies of Prey. This is the profit directly from those physical sales, right?
Yeah.
With streaming, subscribers are paying a flat fee, whether it's $9.99 or $14.99, $19.99, what have you. And that revenue is then spread out amongst all this different content.
Yeah.
Right.
Exactly.
So it's just harder, I think, to kind of track, right? And I'm sure these companies, obviously, they have internal statistics and data and reports. But I just think it's easier to look at a theatrical release or a physical release or rentals and understand, okay, well, they're making profit from that. And that's why they've come out and said, theaters are still important because obviously movies like Oppenheimer and Barbie, they're still bringing in a lot of money. And studios look at that as a way of offsetting a lot of the losses they've had with streaming. That's why we've seen in a lot of these trailers, specifically for newer movies like Killers of the Flower Moon, exclusively in movie theaters and then streaming. But it's available on streaming, or will be soon. I don't know if it is yet. But there's a reason why there's been this push to release movies exclusively in theaters, at least for a period of time before making them available on streaming, because studios know that even though it's a traditional method, they're still making more money with those runs than they necessarily would make from streaming.
It's pure, and I know we want to get into demographics here in a second, but with theatrical releases, it is pure profit. I had spoken to someone who worked kind of like higher up in the theatrical chain in terms of how it worked, and this was years ago, but it's probably still the same thing now, is that when you release something like Oppenheimer, the studio is making, let's say, I don't know the exact numbers, I'm just kind of making these up, but like they'll go to AMC and say, show this movie, we're going to take like 90%, 95% of the as profit, and we'll pay you the other 5% the first few weeks it's out. And then the longer the movie is out, that starts transitioning to the theater making more money, and then the studio taking less of a cut as time goes on, because most people see the movie, within the first month of its release. But it works out for everybody, because when everyone's going to see a movie that first month, they're buying concessions, they're buying all this stuff, at the actual theater. So it works for everybody. Whereas like what you described with streaming, man, it's just kind of like, you're paying your flat fee, and that's being dispersed out to all this different content, all these different licenses. So it becomes kind of like this, this money game, and it's very difficult to kind of keep track of and manage. So theatrical releases are definitely still the way I think studios can churn a big profit. It's just they're not investing the time or effort to do so. So I know we want to actually talk about local demographics, like how kind of like physical media sales have been impacted by our own individual markets. I know we all live in different parts of the country, but we wanted to get someone's insight first, I think, from a user. It's from our Discord community, right, Chase?
Yep, you got it. We've got Mr. Forsympyro from our friend from across the pond, otherwise known by his government name of Chris. So he will be joining us. There's a lot of really cool insights. He's been doing a lot of research. He's very excited to join us and give us, because a lot of people don't realize this, but a lot of what we enjoy here in America in the physical media community is from across the pond. So he's done a lot of research, got a lot of cool insight, and he's ready to talk all day about what he sees over there.
Sweet. And we'll bring him on just to get that insight, because I think what, like what you said, we don't see that here in America, but also I think what happens internationally, I think it's good to know, just because it could always impact us too at the end of the day. So let's bring him on and let's talk to him.
Awesome. Without further ado, here's Mr. Chris. All right, everybody. We have Chris here with us from across the pond. As you guys were listening before he joined us, we gave you our insight, our personal taste, flavors, how we feel about Best Buy, how we feel about Target, with Walmart's market share and everything, how we kind of feel that's impacting us personally, and how it's going to impact physical media, streaming, theatrical runs, the whole 9 yards. So without further ado, I want to open it up for the state of physical media over there in the UK to Mr. Chris, how he feels like how it's either blooming, how it might be dying. You know, I don't like usually saying that, especially, you know, you have a lot of studios over there with Studio Canal, you have Arrow, you have Second Sight. You've got a lot of things that we import over here just as much as you import our titles over there, you know? So how's it looking over there for you, my man?
Well, if I'm honest, it's actually looking pretty good at the moment. I mean, every day there seems to be an announcement. Doesn't show any sign of slowing down. I know people have been collecting since, well, VHS, Laserdisc to DVDs and then Blu-ray, and it doesn't really seem to slow down that much since the peak of Blu-ray.
Interesting.
Wow, yeah.
I think it's been doing pretty well.
Okay.
Because over here, we were just talking about, at least over here in the States, Chris, just, you know, how, I mean, it's been this huge transition and push to streaming, which I'm sure over there, obviously, you know, streaming's probably pretty big too.
Yeah.
But what do you think is sustaining it over there? Like you said, like it still has this kind of like pretty good outlook. What do you think is sustaining that?
I'm not sure. Normally it's more older people buying physical media, and it's normally actually DVDs. And well, we have a place called HMV, which is where most people, I would have thought, would buy their physical media, and they've basically been pushing 4K more. My local place has quite a wide selection of 4Ks, even more than DVDs now.
Oh wow, more so than DVDs.
Yeah, probably. And they've got a whole what's it called, sort of boutique label section and horror movie section. They're pushing Blu-rays and 4Ks more.
So
strangely, they do actually do sell more DVDs though.
Interesting.
Okay.
Apparently.
So let me pose this to you, because you know, whenever it comes to like the Discord and the Reddit, you know, we always like to say like build a sense of community here, because my favorite saying is I can't go with my new Terrifier 2 Steelbook and go run to my neighbor like, dude, look what I got. You know what I mean? Is it easier for you to have that kind of, you know, hey, what DVD did you pick up? What Blu-ray, what 4K did you pick up? Is it easier in your neck of the woods to start that conversation with somebody than it might be, you know, where we're all three located?
Good question.
Not really.
Okay.
I mean, a lot of my friends watch a lot of movies, but they just watch it on streaming.
Okay.
That dynamic is still over there, where the streaming still sounds like it's predominant, and like you can't you share kind of the same, you know, struggle that we do, where it's like it's difficult kind of establishing a community locally with people that collect and being able to hold these conversations. But it sounds like a lot of people over there though are still, even with streaming, that they're still going out to purchase, even though it's DVDs. But it sounds like a lot of people are still just purchasing movies. Is that correct?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I went actually on one Saturday, and HMV was just packed of just people buying, mostly young people, surprisingly. Normally it's sort of middle-aged people just picking up DVDs, but it was young people buying probably horror films, because it was
the horror market,
Halloween.
man.
Horror market. Specifically with collectors, I feel like horror is it's big amongst collectors.
Yeah,
absolutely.
It's very lucrative, especially like when you have people like Arrow that'll get a hold of, you know, the most obscure titles, do a great transfer. Like that also leads me to ask a question. You know, I didn't actually look into this, but with Arrow being based there, do they use HMV as their boutique front, or do they actually have places that you can go into and purchase like their titles from them individually, or are they just a direct distributor and consumer?
As far as I'm aware, I haven't seen, other than Amazon, I haven't seen Arrow being sold anywhere else.
Oh, interesting.
Really?
Oh, interesting.
We don't really have anything else other than Amazon or HMV.
Interesting.
All the sort of supermarkets all stopped selling physical media a while ago.
Yeah.
Interesting. Okay.
HMV, do they specialize in physical media, Chris, or are they kind of more like a Walmart or a Best Buy? Okay, so they physical media.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
And they're actually making a comeback. They died down a few years ago, but they're coming back up. Got a new shop opening in Oxford Street that closed down in 2019.
Okay.
Do you think some of that was the pandemic had a big role in that, where people were buying more movies when everyone was kind of in lockdown?
If I'm honest, I think the place where it's come back would be probably vinyl. I think that is actually because their physical media, they sell CDs, vinyl, and then DVDs, Blu-ray, 4K. And I think that saved them. That would be my guess.
Interesting.
That's so interesting. It's so
I mean, it
different
makes
from
sense.
here too.
I mean, like vinyl, that makes sense because it's a huge draw. Just like like back in 2022 mid-year, you had 4K reach its peak, right? Which has kind of had its highs and lows based on the graphs that we've looked at and we talked about earlier. But vinyl has been overtaking CD sales massively. Ever since it's made a huge comeback. People like that vinyl sound.
Yeah. I did ask them, and they, the people at work HMV, they said they probably sell about equal vinyl to CD.
Okay.
Interesting. Okay, and how common is it to have an HMV? I know you said they're reopening and stuff like that. Is it like you got to go the distance?
My local one is only a 15-minute drive.
Okay.
Not bad.
So it's about 2.3 miles away from me, and then the next one's 6 miles away, and then 9 miles away. So they're pretty close. Some people, if they live in the middle of nowhere, probably can't get to one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you might just be unfortunate.
But it sounds like, I mean, when you're listing like 6 miles, 9 miles, I mean, that's a lot of different, at least for me where I'm at. And I don't know, maybe for Will and Chase too, but that's a lot of just like physical media stores in one radius. Like for me, it's like, I have one in the middle of the city and then, 20 miles out each way, maybe even 30 miles out each way, there isn't another one. So the fact that you have one 6 miles, 9 miles, 12 miles, it sounds like there's quite a bit of them.
Yeah, I just checked now. My local one's 2.3, 7.3, 9.4 miles away.
That's pretty solid. And I understand the stretch of there, a city with a lot of history, or, country with a lot of history. I apologize. Country with a lot of history behind it. Things are going to be, it might be a little bit harder to navigate, kind of like where I live. 2 miles can be a while, but if I go a different way, 2 miles, I can hit a lot in one area, just because of where I'm located. So that definitely makes sense. So I would love to pose this other question to you, just because we kind of preface that a little bit. I imported that Hellraiser set. I imported that Psycho set. Arrow does great work out there, and it doesn't seem like it's you still have to go through Amazon, or I'm assuming through them directly to get those Arrow titles, but not brick and mortar physically. So how easy is it? So for example, we have Diabolic here, we have Grindhouse Video, we have Atomic Movie Store, we have some great third-party sites that I definitely wanted to shout out where, for pretty much the same price, they got the import fees and stuff. Do you have anywhere else online where you can get that Godzilla Steelbook, the upcoming Black Hawk Down, any of those Sony ones where you can get them for a little bit easier kind of dollar to swallow than paying $17, $18 due to the restrictions for imports and the taxes and regulations over there?
I mean, not that I know. There's one company that I know of called Film Treasures, I think. But they're sort of quite expensive. I don't know if they have sales. So what I've been doing is I'm just buying them on Amazon.
Okay.
Because you get free shipping.
Oh, even on imported titles, you can, because when I go through Amazon, I got to pay $17 to bring
it. That's
great over there.
Yeah, that's a benefit, it sounds like.
I can order from the US store, then I have to, the US Amazon store, then I have to pay shipping, but I can order from the UK Amazon website an American title shipped from America and won't have to pay any shipping.
Nice. I was like, you got a benefit we don't.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
When I try to switch it up on mine, it's I'm getting hit with that shipping pretty hard.
Yeah. So I ordered I stupidly ordered the Godzilla Steelbook, 1998 Godzilla Steelbook for £38.
It's about 43 here, right?
Yeah, I think, exchange rates. And then it was broken, so I sent it back, then ordered it on the UK one, and it was only $29 including shipping, which was free.
Oh, I wonder how that works. I wonder why that happens over there, not over here.
Yeah,
we're being punished.
Yeah, we're jealous.
The exchange rates don't make sense always. It's like Fright Night when that was £10, so I got that for £25. That's not obviously equal exchange rate.
Interesting, but it seems for sure over there, there is some, like what you said, a lot of. I mean, you have a lot of the they're called HMV is the store.
Yes,
HMV. So you have.
voice stands for.
Oh, okay. And so you have quite a bit of those, and like you said, they're pretty. I mean, they get packed. They get pretty busy, and you have a lot of people buying physical media out there. But there isn't any distinguishing factor that you can kind of identify that is pointing people to buying movies over there. Because at least for me, on my side of the states, it's it's rare to see someone in a physical media aisle. Like sometimes it could just be me. Most of the time, it's just me. You know what I mean? I don't really see a lot of people picking titles up. But there is some kind of something different going on over there where a lot of people are shifting towards going to brick and mortar stores, but it's not something like you can kind of identify yourself.
No, probably not. Don't really. No, I don't work there.
That's interesting. That's super
Wish I
interesting.
could though. That'd be fun.
I'd like to pose this to you too, Chris, just because I know you said it was kind of okay that you wanted to bring this up a little bit, but it looks like physical media collecting was passed through the bloodline. So how does your lineage see the transition and the easy cost of acquisition and the shift of the landscape? Kind of see how it's heading, how it's going, like if, because your whole family collects physical media as far as the conversation we had, right?
Well, yeah, it's most my dad.
Yeah.
Who has been collecting since VHS and then Laserdisc, all the way through to 4K, and yeah, so he thinks that is going well as well. That sales are good.
Okay, that's pretty.
Your
solid.
dad has to have a conversation with my dad. He doesn't buy any 4K. He just continues to buy Blu-rays, even though I've told him many times that the resolution's much higher. I've told him the perks of HDR and Dolby Vision, but he's just
and you get brand new remasters as well most of the time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
that's a big thing for me.
And then you also get the Blu-ray included on there. I mean, I don't know. It took me a little while to get away from those shiny blue cases to like the pure black. You know, the blue just looks nice on a shelf.
I prefer the black, to be honest.
Yeah, it looks cool. I do want to also bring this up. So according to UK laws, you cannot, which would also kind of be a cool American law with what we've been seeing with the Warner Brothers releases, where you can still find digital codes that are expired, but you can't redeem them. But on the case, it's advertised as coming with one. UK laws prohibit any type of perishable good, as far as I'm aware, from being included in something along the lieu of physical media. So if, let's say, they find a lot of backstock, let's say they find 100 copies of what's one, Dune. I don't know why that's the one I'm thinking of. So you find 100 copies of Dune, but all the digital codes are expired. That is technically a civil suit that the company could be facing, based on my research for UK laws. So do you remember a time whenever digital codes used to come with that? Do you find it kind of inconvenient that you can't build a digital code collection? Because I always like having the backup. I'm not a digital code watcher, but I mean, if I'm out traveling, because sometimes I travel for my job and I might be away from my physical media collection, it's nice to be able to pop open the 4K or something, just sign into my Apple TV, my YouTube, because I have movies anywhere. But it doesn't seem like you can reap that benefit of that. How do you just stick to purely physical media? Do you double dip and get some digital sales going?
I don't think I've only ever used the digital code once.
Okay.
Wow.
And that was to watch San Andreas at school.
So it's not a predominant thing over there.
Because we don't get them anymore with our 4Ks.
Yeah.
The only digital codes I have are from American imports and Sully, which I got in the UK. Just completely at random.
Oh, so the codes here work over there.
I haven't actually tried, probably should.
Oh, okay.
It doesn't sound like it's the digital code thing is a big deal.
No.
Not a deal breaker.
Yeah. I mean, I've never even thought of it to be a deal breaker.
And meanwhile, over here, we have people scavenging through codes, asking for codes. Like it's a totally different culture over here.
People see codes on there on a 4K haul, and they're DMing people asking them, "May I have that?"
Oh, it's so weird. It's so different.
Absolutely. Well, any questions that you may have for him? Any questions, insight?
Yeah, I mean, I'm interested. You mentioned that I don't know if I heard you correctly, Chris, but did you guys you used to have digital codes there, or was that never a thing?
Yeah, we
Okay.
used to have
Do you know
them
how
for
long
Blu-ray.
ago that was? Oh, only for Blu-ray.
Yeah, I mean, I've
Okay.
got some Blu-ray sitting next to me there. Actually, the Alvin and the Chipmunks box set,
Yeah.
and they all come with digital codes.
Nice.
Yeah, that's so
Yeah, it says
interesting. how that
Blu-ray
was phased
DVD
out.
plus digital codes, or digital
Okay.
copy.
But everyone over there with the digital code, it's like, I don't
Yeah.
care. Not important.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know anyone who uses them.
Fair enough. And
I
you
mean,
guys
there
watch
probably
movies
is. I probably just don't know
Oh,
them.
go ahead.
Oh no, go right on ahead. I was just curious if like Movies Anywhere, because I know Movies Anywhere doesn't extend up to Canada.
Yeah.
Oh, it doesn't? I didn't know that.
No.
It's lame.
Oh,
Lame,
interesting.
lame.
That's yeah, people do digital codes.
Yeah.
Then
Yeah,
in the UK, I'll just check to see what we have. Find the digital copy. I think it's UV something.
Oh, the UV.
Oh,
They
Ultra.
went out, yeah, they went
Oh,
out a while ago.
Ultraviolet.
Yeah,
Yeah.
man.
Yeah.
But you could still
Seriously.
claim a whole bunch of those codes. Yeah, they
Yeah,
went out
that's
years
crazy.
ago. Like
I'm
I think they went out
yeah.
7 years ago, maybe, or maybe
wow.
6 years ago.
Yeah, just goes to show how long I haven't actually
Just sitting on those
looked
codes.
at one.
You can still claim
Yeah.
a lot of them though, and for like I actually popped some open that I had sitting on my shelf, and like the code said it expired in like 2016 or something, and I put it in and it worked. Surprisingly, I don't know why, but but it doesn't sound like it's that big of a deal. So there is. It sounds like there's definitely like some different. I don't want to even call it like a cultural thing. There's different like dynamics in terms over there. Like it doesn't sound like digitals are that important. It sounds like you get a lot more influx in terms of the brick and mortar stores than we do. But it doesn't sound like there's any like identifiable variable as to why, which is pretty interesting. Maybe that's just kind of like maybe it's just been a norm over there for quite some time. I mean, we had it as a norm too, so I can't like it's hard for me to kind of differentiate what the difference is between over there and here in terms of why physical media it's still strong over here. It's still strong, but it's we have a lot of these kind of doom and gloom discussions sometimes about where it's headed.
Yeah. It yeah,
Chris,
because
I want to ask you about. Oh, go ahead, Chase.
no, go ahead. I was just gonna continue.
No, I was going to ask about Film Treasures. Is that an online retailer only, or do they have physical locations? Because I know
As
you
far-
mentioned HMV and Amazon are pretty much your main go-tos over there for movies. But like over here, we have like Vinegar Syndrome has a couple pop-up stores. Chase has one near him. I have one about an hour and a half away. But that's pretty much it for brick and mortar, other than soon to be gone, Best Buy and Target. But I was just curious about that.
Yeah, as far as I'm aware, it's online only.
Okay. I'm assuming they do a lot of like boutique stuff out, maybe then more so than like mainstream releases. I'm gonna have to check them out.
That's interesting.
I mean, H&V to me is just great because it does everything.
Yeah. Do you get anything cheaper? Like the second sites, are they pretty much the same thing we pay, but just we pay the import fees like for Studio Canal, Second Sight, and Arrow? You pay the same penny for penny, just no import fees?
I mean, the second sight stuff is currently £28, which is can't do that maths in my head. Don't know what that is in dollars.
No, so that's for like the big box editions. You can get them for £28.
Is that
No, that's
those
just
are
that's
collectors?
just standard.
Oh,
one.
okay. I'm about to say, yeah, you've definitely got the hookup
Jason's
over
like,
there.
wait a
Then.
minute.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just look at H&V right now on the
Yeah, what is
online,
that?
see what they-
Like $35 US, I think.
Yeah, about. I think it's 1.2 conversion rate, but it goes up and down because sometimes I try to articulate it. That's why I go through Grindhouse now. Because I mean, it adds up plus those import fees, and it sucks.
Yeah.
Like I want to support Arrow directly, but oh, I just thought of this because we have the affiliation with Zavi actually. Yeah, so like Zavi's not a big player over there.
that's another one.
Oh, okay.
I think it is, but I don't buy from them because to me the prices are better in H&V.
Fair enough.
And
Okay.
they're just not that competitive, really.
Okay. Yeah, because they own Arrow.
And yeah, and you can't go in and go to a Zavvi shop. There's no brick and mortar stores that I'm
Gotcha.
aware of.
Okay. Fair enough.
I'm actually
Even
looking
if
up
I'm
film
ordering it on-
treasures. Oh, go ahead.
Even if I'm ordering online from HMV, I will still order it into the store because it's just easy to go collect it, and I probably will buy something else in store.
Yeah.
Just the impulse, yeah.
Yeah. Do you guys have to? I don't know why, and correct me if I'm wrong, Chris. I think it was another YouTuber I was watching that collects Criterion. Do you guys not have like access to Criterion there, or do you have to import it?
We do kind of. I think we have some Blu-rays, but now I think starting October there's 4 4Ks officially released in the UK by
Nice.
Criterion.
So you guys are just kind of playing catch up a
Which
little bit
are
with some of the
after
4K
hours
releases.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah, I mean, it sounds
Yeah.
like the UK is starting to kind of like. I mean, I remember a few years back, like Criterion was like this. Like it was at least from what I was reading online. Like with the UK, it was difficult to kind of get some Criterion releases.
I mean, they have probably about a 1 meter shelf space, which is 2 levels, just for Criterion Blu-rays and DVDs. I'm not sure if they do DVDs. I haven't really looked into them, but yeah. And then 4Ks, we got 4, which is After Hours, the Guillermo del Toro, Pinocchio, The Last Picture Show, and something else. Can't
Also,
remember.
there's still
Those are
like
all-
a whole bunch like Citizen Kane you guys don't have, or the others that just came out. Like those haven't been made for the UK yet.
Well, we do have a Citizen Kane, but I think it's Studio Canal.
Yeah, because they did the Studio
yeah.
Canal one.
Yeah,
That
because
Yeah,
box
Studio
set looks
Canal
that.
owns
cool.
the rights.
Yeah.
It does
Yeah.
look pretty cool. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah,
But
and I would
it's
say,
interesting that the sales are just like. I mean, it sounds like you at least from your perspective, like you're very optimistic in terms of the sales and how
Yeah.
physical media is performing over there.
I mean, at my local HMV, there is getting the problem that
Yeah.
there's not enough shelf space anymore for the new 4K releases.
interesting.
Man, that's so weird hearing that here, at least over
Yeah.
here.
Meanwhile, they're
We're
shrinking.
wishing we had those options here.
Yeah, man, we're
situation.
dealing with shrinking shelves. We're dealing with a lot of these retailers. They're getting rid of the stuff, and it sounds like over there they're like, well, we need more shelves. We need more shelving space.
I'm sure they can buy Best
They
Buy's
don't
old
always
shelves.
have everything in stock. Sorry, what are you saying?
Oh, I was saying, I'm sure HMV will be willing to buy Best Buy's old shelving that they're gonna probably throw away.
Ship it overseas.
Man, and Chris, it sounded like we kind of went through some of our questions that we wanted to ask, but it sounds like you had some points too that you had written down in terms of what's going on over there in the UK. Is there anything that you wanted to bring up that we haven't asked you about?
Not really, other than just what I really think the future of physical media would be. I just wanted to say some stuff about that.
Yeah, tell us,
That's
man, because we
right.
just went through it. We actually, right before you got on, we were talking about the state of physical media, like our personal outlooks on it. But I mean, obviously our perspective is, confined to what we see here in the States. So, I mean, we'd love hearing your perspective in terms of what you're seeing out there in the UK.
I mean, yeah, personally, I think you probably would agree with this, but they're moving towards more boutique labels releasing catalog
Yeah.
things, and I
100%.
think that will definitely be the future. I mean, brand new releases get released by studios, and the rest will be dealt with by boutique labels. I mean, that does mean that companies like Shout Factory will have to probably, I don't know, open stores in the UK. That would be nice because can't get any of that, or Kino Lorber.
Do you guys? I mean, this is for you, Chris, too, and Chase and Will. Do you guys see that happening, like Shout Factory and Kino, and like those branching out over to like the UK?
I definitely see Kino
I know with
Lorber.
Shout, Studio Canal owns a lot of the rights in the UK that Scream Factory, for some of the Scream Factory stuff here in the US. So that'd be an interesting, I would just wonder how that would work with the licensing and the rights issues. That would be my main thing.
Yeah,
would be the
that is
one
the biggest
roadblock,
problem,
right,
though.
Chris? Yeah.
Yeah, that's why I had a thing about the licensing issues being a bit of a pain.
Right. It's funny, Chris, because I mentioned earlier, I'm looking up Film Treasures, and it looks like they're kind of like, I mean, what we know here in the U.S., like Diabolic DVD, Grindhouse Video, Orbit DVD. They're kind of like more boutique focused distribution companies. So it looks like Film Treasures actually distributes a lot. They have Arrow,
Yeah.
obviously Severin,
Yeah.
but actually have like Vinegar Syndrome and Scream Factory as well, which is
Yeah,
interesting.
they got
So
Blue Underground and stuff.
yeah, Blue Underground, which is a favorite of mine and a lot of others. But
Same.
yeah, so it looks like they're kind of providing that right now. But it'd be interesting to see moving forward if things continue on that trajectory, like whether or not more like independent mom and pop shops pop up over there.
I mean, yeah, I think brick and mortar stores would be best thing to get imports from. There used to be a place near me that my dad was talking about in the probably 90s where he would get imported laser discs from.
That's pretty cool. Are there a lot? Because I know we were asking about HMV specifically, but do you have a lot of just kind of like what Will was saying, like mom and pop shops that just kind of sell physical media? That's just kind of what they do. Like they like
not
own kind of like small
really.
businesses. Okay, so that's not. I mean, we used to have. I mean, this was like 10, 15 years ago, but here where I lived, there was quite a few of them, and then they started kind of trickling down as time went on. I think most of them are gone, unfortunately. So like the only one here, at least on my end, is Zia Records. That's where I buy a lot of my like physical media from. So it sounds like HMV is just kind of taking over that space, and that's where everyone goes right now.
Yeah. I think definitely people do still shop on Zavi online because they do quite good steelbooks.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, they do
Or
great
exclusives.
steelbooks.
Yeah,
We were kind of bummed when
I'm
they
not.
stopped shipping them over here.
Yeah.
Yeah, I heard
That was a
about
big
that.
thing for us.
Yeah. That
But
stinks.
yeah, as a person who doesn't really collect steelbooks, mostly just buy standard releases.
Is that, I mean, just to piggyback off that real quick, just because I know we really enjoy steelbooks. Is that a big thing over at HMV? Is there a big, like, for lack of a better term, steelbook population where a lot of people are like trying to buy steelbooks over there?
I mean, you do have HMV exclusive steelbooks, which just seem to be the Best Buy steelbooks.
There we go.
They seem to be the same.
Yeah.
They seem to be the same exact design.
Yeah, we were just touching on that earlier. Just that a lot of, I mean, with Best Buy not going out of business, but getting rid of the physical media aspect, that a lot of those like worldwide exclusive art or worldwide available art is kind of used by other retailers, and it sounds like HMV has picked up a lot of those steelbooks.
Yeah, I mean they're labeled HMV exclusive, but they're obviously just.
That's so interesting. I
So-
wonder why all these retailers do that. Why does Best Buy do that? Why does HMV do that? I think that the French side, I think it's FNAC.
FNAC.
Yeah, I think they say the same thing too. I don't know why they call it exclusive when it's not.
Yeah. I'm looking at the HMV website at the moment. You got Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 HMV exclusive, The Flash HMV exclusive, Rise of the Beast HMV exclusive, and
you guys
they,
had
they,
Oh, go ahead, Chris.
every single sort of release nowadays that is a brand new release does get a HMV exclusive, like I guess what happened with Best Buy.
Yeah, I think there was one exclusive though that we didn't get. I think it was when Last Night in Soho came out.
Oh God.
I think you guys had some like, I think it was like if it was like a steel book or it was like a slip with a steel book. I think you guys had that. We didn't get that whatsoever.
Yeah, I haven't seen that before. It's not for sale at the moment currently, unless it's Zavi.
Well, let's
Interesting.
go buy some of Best
I mean,
Buy's
it
old
sounds
stock.
like you sound a lot more. I mean, we're optimistic as well, Chris. I think like even with a lot of like the doom and gloom stuff that you see on social media and people are making videos about, especially with Best Buy announcing they're getting rid of physical media. We were kind of just talking about how we don't see it that way. We don't see kind of like this doom and gloom perspective, at least on our ends, and it doesn't sound like you see it that way either. And if anything, it sounds like it's thriving over there.
Yeah, I mean, there's new releases still coming out every day. If it was dying, I wouldn't expect them to be releasing stuff, even from studios releasing catalog releases.
Yeah,
And
or
Warner
seeing
Brothers.
or HMV being packed on Halloween. Because over here, it's it's everyone's like, oh, what streaming service has this horror movie or that horror movie, and we don't see people flocking to the stores buying Halloween themed films, but over there that seems like that's the thing. It's like it's Halloween time, we're all gonna go to HMV and buy some movies.
I may be wrong, but I think in the UK we have a smaller selection of stuff on streaming. I don't think we have as many titles on streaming.
That makes sense.
Maybe that's the variable then.
Yeah.
I mean, we're talking about this variable that we can't pinpoint. Maybe that's what it is that you guys don't have a lot of licenses in terms of what you're available to stream. So people are still kind of flocking to physical media as a way to kind of get the releases that they want.
Yeah, a lot of the movies that I want to watch, they're not on streaming anywhere, so I have no choice.
Interesting.
And I wonder how that's going to be, because over here we were just talking about how a lot of the licenses, all these different streaming services are kind of like fighting amongst themselves to kind of get these licenses or hold on to them or sell them off or if they don't want them, and it's it's caused this weird thing where now we have so many pop-up streaming services. I'm wondering, do you see anything like that happening over there? Do you see, at least with the streaming services, a lot of them buying licenses and holding on to them for only a certain amount of time, and then all of a sudden you'll see it pop up on another streaming service? Does that happen?
Sometimes, but I wouldn't have thought it would be often. We obviously used to just have Netflix, and then you had Prime, and then now you're getting sort of Paramount Plus, and now you're getting Lionsgate streaming service, who are now beginning to do their own.
I didn't know about Lionsgate. When did that happen?
You don't have that in America.
Yeah, we don't have it here.
Oh,
but I'm pretty sure. Yeah, Lionsgate has their streaming service in the UK.
Yeah, so
Yeah,
these movie studios
it's like
are starting
Stars
to do
Plus,
that.
right? It's like for their Stars platform.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Lionsgate.
I read about
Plus.
that.
Huh.
I'm a huge fan of Liongate's catalog, and especially their steelbooks.
Oh,
Like they just
Yeah, their steelbooks are top.
They are the best. I mean, I recently
Yeah.
picked up the Reservoir Dogs steelbook, and that is now my favorite steelbook.
Yeah, that's a
Yep.
great one.
Yeah, I should have got that one when it came out. I don't know how I didn't do it. I was just like, oh, it'll be in stock, and then I just got lazy and didn't
Yeah,
get it.
it is weird though because Lionsgate steelbooks, obviously due to licensing, they don't release some, and sometimes you get steelbook exclusives. Like you can only get Reservoir Dogs in a steelbook in the UK.
Oh, you guys don't have the standard release.
No, we don't. So that's what I was umming up there. That's what I was a bit unsure about
Interesting.
getting it, because obviously it's more expensive.
Yeah. Well, that's
I
interesting.
was waiting to see if they were going to release a new one, but I gave up. Just bought the steelbook.
Yeah, I mean, I think the thing that you I mean, maybe you deal with, I'm not sure. It's just, it sounds like you have to do a lot of the waiting game to see, if something is going to come out or not on your end of the pond.
Yeah, I mean, one thing that I find really weird about is the new Disney releases and how they're being released.
Are
they-
you guys getting those?
We are, but 3 months late
I think I read about
on
that.
average. I would say.
Hmm.
When everyone was buying Prey, we didn't have it.
That's interesting. So like I know the big ones coming up, I think, are Mandalorian. I think that comes out in December. So is that what's the release date for that for you guys? Is that around March?
I'll just check. I mean, currently I don't even think Prey is out yet.
Yeah, hopefully it comes
Wow.
out by the end of the year, because
Okay.
that's like one of the best transfers of this year. Like
Yeah.
easily.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Prey is coming out 27th of November.
Oh, that's not too bad.
Okay, yeah,
Yeah.
so it's
2
about a
months.
month later.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's annoying though for some.
Month and a
Like
half.
for me, like I love that film, and like if someone had it like 2 months before I did, I'd be pretty.
You'd be importing
I'd
it.
be pretty peeved. I'd be importing it 100%. Like that is kind of odd that they wait so long in terms of releasing it. I'm not sure if it I don't think that happens with the standard releases. I think most standard releases are pretty even across the board. Correct?
It just seems to be all Disney releases.
Hmm.
So the Prey normal one is 27th. Guardians of the Galaxy came out October 3rd, which I think is a month late.
Guardians of the
Wow.
Galaxy 3?
Yeah, because that one. What'd
That
you
came
say,
out in
Chase? I think your mic went on mute.
Oh, Chase, yeah, your mic is.
No, my mic's on. For some reason, I gotta like lick it to talk for some reason.
Yeah,
Because I've been making commentary. Noticed it doesn't come on here. But I was gonna say, didn't Gardens come out like August, late July?
Yeah, I
Yeah,
think that came out a while ago.
Yeah.
At least for me. So the fact that that just came out a month ago in the UK, that's really interesting. But that's another Disney title, like you said.
Yeah, it only seems to be Disney. I mean, Oppenheimer, that's coming out 22nd, which I think is the same in America.
Yeah,
okay.
I think it's the last week of November for us. Could be
Yeah.
wrong.
Yeah, I think that sounds like
know
it's
it's
pretty
end of the month.
standard.
Yeah. Normally comes out on a
Interesting.
Monday here.
Well,
Well,
guys,
I mean, we're glad that you sound very optimistic about physical media over there, man. I mean, we were telling you, we were processing and talking about a lot of that over here on our neck of the woods, and even though a lot of these retailers are saying that they're going to stop selling physical media, we're still pretty optimistic about, the future of it on our end of the pond. But it sounds like for you too, man. I mean, if anything, it sounds like you guys are thriving over there. Like it's actually performing very
probably.
well.
Mm.
Well, I don't know why I was expecting kind of like like an Australia situation over there, where I know a lot of people in Australia are like,
Oh yeah, that's
Yeah.
they're stressed out right now. They're pulling their hair just trying to get a release. So I was like, I
Yeah.
wonder how the UK is. But I mean, it sounds like you're doing, if anything, I mean, at least in terms of brick and mortar stores, you sound like you're doing better than we are.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, for me, just HMV just saved it.
Wow.
That's
Awesome.
the big one. So without HMV, that would be. I mean, if HMV ever for some reason went out of business, that would be it for you guys.
Yeah, it would make it a lot harder probably to buy stuff, and that would then really sell less.
Well, if you ever talk to HMV, maybe you can let them know that we're very interested in them opening up stores here in the States.
I mean, they used to be in Canada.
Oh, really?
They're
Okay.
actually owned by Sunshine Records.
Oh yeah, Rangers of the Black Gate
Sunshine
always talks about
Records.
them. That's like one of their best. That's equivalent, yeah, because that's like their best bet for getting physical media in Canada for the most part for a decent
Well,
price.
Yeah, I think they just it's owned by some Canadian man who was rich and then also owned Sunshine Records. So I think it is under that. And they used to have shops in Canada, but sadly had to shut them down a few years ago, I think.
It reminds me of when I'm looking at HMV. I was just out of curiosity, just googling pictures of it. It reminds me of, and I never knew how to pronounce this store, so I'm sorry if I'm butchering it. Do you guys remember like it was spelled FYE?
Yeah, I
Or
have one
your
near me.
entertainment.
Yeah,
Or,
I have
oh
one here.
yeah. Oh, you have one there?
Yeah,
Like,
the mall
all
down
of
the
them on this
street.
side of, like, man, really, all of ours went out of business, and HMV very much looks like that store. Like they look very similar.
Yeah, the closest thing
Oh.
I have to that here is Newberry Comics. I don't know if you guys have any of those near you in the
Mm-mm.
States. Yeah,
Mm-mm.
that's like our version of FYE. But we used to have FYE here. We had a few different stores, but it's been years.
Hey,
Yeah, we had one in
Gabe.
Florida. I went to go see my parents in Florida one time, and they had one at the mall over there. But yeah, on the West
Yeah.
Coast over here, I haven't seen any. But they
HMV
look
owns
very
FYE.
similar aesthetically.
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool, man. Well, I'm glad that it's not a doom and gloom situation over there, Chris. And that you guys are very optimistic in terms of the outlook on it. I mean, I guess the only scary part is like what we said, where we were just talking about that HMV. It sounds like that they're the main player in town, and if something ever happened with them financially, that would be a little bit of a scary situation. But I mean, now it doesn't look like that's happening.
A few years ago, it was quite unsure because they went into liquidation.
Mm.
Oh, really? What year was that?
I'd probably say it's like a couple years ago, but it actually be 10 years ago.
Okay. So at least someone bought them out, and they've been doing okay ever since.
And it happened in 2018 actually, apparently.
So it was right before the pandemic. I thought for some reason that happened during the pandemic. But it sounds like whoever purchased them, I mean, they know what they're doing. They went from being bankrupt to, I mean, it sounds like they're pretty profitable right now.
Yeah, they seem to be doing pretty well.
Well, that's good.
Another thing that's probably helped them is they're now selling sort of memorabilia.
Oh,
And-
that's cool.
and like t-shirts and little figures and very expensive plushies.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think these physical
that's big
media
over here
stores,
though too.
yeah, they're kind of like starting to transition into, like what you said, statues, toys, T-shirts, like anything that's like kind of, in the physical media realm, I guess. Like I think that's good. They're kind of transitioning into those other markets, because if it's just music and movies, I think that plays it a little risky.
Yeah, I mean, I know some people don't actually like it because they're selling rubbish, apparently. Overpriced rubbish, because it's just sort of toys and stuff. Well, not toys, like action figures and
Yeah.
we need to call them that. Props stuff.
My perspective is if it helps keep them open.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, keep doing it, because when you rely too much on one thing, if it's just physical media, that could be a risky business. So, it sounds like they're doing well. It sounds like you're pretty optimistic about the outlook of physical media over there, man. We appreciate you coming on and kind of sharing some insight in terms of what's going on over there, because obviously we're just kind of, we're in our own little echo chamber here where we just kind of see what's going on in terms of the States, but we don't really get a lot of insight in terms of what's going on internationally.
I hope I'm not too optimistic.
I don't think that. Yeah, man. I mean, we want as much optimism as possible. So the fact that it's sounding good over there, I think that kind of boosted our sense of optimism on our side of the pond. So we appreciate you coming on, Chris. Thank you so much for contributing, man, and giving us that insight.
Thank you so much, Chris. We appreciate
I don't know if there's anything else you guys wanted to touch on, Chase, Will, before we close out.
I was just going to ask Chris if you could share with the listeners, what's your most anticipated release? Is there anything you're looking forward to before the end of the year?
I am quite looking forward to the Child's Play box set.
Heck yeah.
That's a good one. Yeah, we're waiting for that here too. We're eager.
Yeah,
for that
I've already imported the American version of the first one, Shout Factory, because we don't have that in the UK.
Right, the 4K for that. You guys couldn't get it over there.
Cool. Yeah. I mean, it's mostly I just want stuff that hasn't been announced yet.
Yeah.
I want a lot of 20th Century Fox titles.
That's a whole show right there.
Yeah, that's a whole different, I think, podcast, man, where we could talk about that for another 2 hours probably. But yeah, as always, man, I mean, Chris, we appreciate you so much for coming on and giving us that insight and also sharing some of your time, because I know you're probably really busy. So we appreciate you coming on, man. Thank you so much.
No problem.
Thank you so much, Chris. Appreciate you.
What'd you say, Chase?
I think my mic gave out, but I was saying thank you so much, Chris. Appreciate you.
And we appreciate everyone else for listening. Thank you guys so much for tuning in, and we will catch you next time.
Later, everybody.
See ya.
Bye, physical media.
Bye from the one British person.
There you go. Thank you, Chris.
Bye from surprisingly not rainy England.
Well, that was a bitch, but now it's done.